And before we get into introduction for the other panelists, just quick ground rules. Make sure you're on mute. I understand WebEx is finicky, so sometimes you might go off mute, but that's totally fine. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and I'll incorporate them throughout the entire conversation if it flows with the current topic. So without further ado, let me pass on to the panelists so they can introduce themselves. Let's see who wants to start. Leander, you want to go ahead for us? So you're on mute.
Sorry about that. All right, I'm Leander Howard II, founder and CEO of an online resume writing and career advancement services company, helping real people obtain real results. And I'm also an incoming financial analyst at Adobe. Graduated from Georgia State with 2 degrees, one in marketing, one in finance this past May. Excited to be here and hopefully you learn something from me today.
All right, who wants to go next? Angela?
Hey, my name is Angela Chavez. I currently work for NCR as a software engineer. I graduated from GSU in December of 2018 with a computer information systems major, and application development was my concentration.
Nicole?
Okay, hello. My name is Nicole Morris. I'm currently a talent acquisition specialist at Norfolk Southern, and I graduated from Georgia State in December 2019 with a bachelor's degree in managerial science.
Last but not least, Dana?
So it actually sounds like I'm the old person on the panel today, which is a first for me. I graduated in spring 2016 with a degree in business economics. While I was at Georgia State, I was a part of the inaugural Women Lead class, which it's great to see how that program has grown. And I was a part of the Panthers in London cohort when that still existed. So I started my career at Warner Media working for Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. And recently I've transitioned to work at Netflix based in LA, supporting their content strategy team.
And I also graduated this past fall with a degree in finance, currently working at Georgia Pacific, and we'll be starting with EY soon. But when I look back on my GSU experience, it's all great things. I met wonderful people. I had some of the best memories that I could have made. And I want to ask you all, what's one really key memory that's stuck with you all this time over the past few years?
I'll go.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I just want to say that I think the key memory for me was meeting all of my friends and recruiting together. I think that Kazi, you were involved in that, and we had a great group that we would go to events together, support each other, review resumes, interview, give each other like the down low of all the companies, and I don't think that I'm going to ever really get that again, that event. So I would say definitely go to a lot of events and make sure you keep your friends involved.
I think one thing for me, most definitely the network. I was very involved at GSU. So I started off playing football and then kind of transitioned into just academics and getting involved on campus. Played Alpha Kappa Psi professional business fraternity. Served as president there last year. And then I interned at Wells Fargo and interned at Arthur Blanks Foundation at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But I think the network at GSU is just magnificent. I met great people here, business partners, friends, team members, and they're all, still a part of that network today. So, but I would encourage also to think beyond GSU too, use GSU as a resource to maybe go to I was at the Forbes 30 under 30 Scholars Conference in Detroit, where I met people from all over the world, and GSU actually funded that for us. So there's a lot of things that GSU can do for you to kind of broaden your network and expand your network across the world. And most definitely with interviewing too, and just building a relationship with HR recruiters and people that are in your position that you want to be in now. So I think it's very important just to put yourself out there, because GSU can most definitely get back to you.
So my favorite experience at Georgia State was actually doing study abroad. I went to Paris, France, and it was really a great experience to not only learn more about cultures, but to really see how other cultures view the United States and how you can change those viewpoints, along with just learning more about the different companies and how your career path doesn't have to just exist inside of the United States. Like you can literally travel and make money and work. And so I feel like if you get a chance, you should definitely do study abroad. There's many programs that you can do, and it's really a great opportunity to not only learn about cultures, learn more academically, but just to be able to grow personally and professionally.
Nicole, that's what I was going to say. So +1 to that. Anybody that can study abroad, it's very unlikely, that early in your career, you would get an opportunity to go abroad. So it's important to leverage that, opportunity while you're in school. And Georgia State has, wonderful assistance to get you to go abroad. I always joke that through Georgia State, I was able to go to Costa Rica for a summer to study abroad. And then the London program, out of pocket for both of those experiences, I had to come up with $1,200. That cannot happen in real life. Like if I wanted to go to just London now, it might cost almost that just to get there. So really, take advantage of the opportunities that we have available at State.
So the common threads were, be involved, meet as many people as you can, take advantage of your opportunities. And clearly you all have had incredible experiences. And how have those experiences helped you in your current role or in your career so far?
I'll start.
Oh, okay.
So for me, it's funny. The experience in London became a bigger topic in my interviews early on than I expected it to be. For me, it was something that I was just passionate about. I'm passionate about working for global companies and having those opportunities. But going in for an interview at Cartoon Network, I thought it would be laser focused on what my actual hard skills were. So something I learned early on was that, the things that make you unique and the personal passions that you do have do come out in those interviews, and people want to get to know the person that you are, just as much as, they need to know that you're qualified. You wouldn't have been invited into the room if you were not. So that was just a surprising thing to me, that the things that make you unique and special will come up throughout the interview process.
So I would actually even take that step further. When I was at Georgia State, obviously now I'm in a very technical position because I'm a software engineer with NCR, but my degree was in business. And I think that experience and all my experience working through college has really affected how I understand business problems in a technical world. So I think that just taking those experiences and instead of making them something that you're self-conscious about or something that you think, oh, I'm going to get these questions that I don't know, I think that they're something that you should focus on and you should really own.
I think college is great, right? But I honestly think by graduating now, GSU, the best thing they taught me how to do was to finish something that I started. And I think that's where the world is. Is like we have YouTube, we have Coursera, we got Udemy. Like you can learn anything, and everything online, right? But you're not necessarily getting that same network, the same interactions, being a part of a community, like being a part of Alpha Kappa Psi, being the president taught me how to manage people, which pretty much transferred over to me managing a whole business now, my own business. I have 10 people on my team. So it transfers over to real life situations. If I wasn't in that position, I probably wouldn't be able to have a business. I'm not going to lie, because now I learned things just being a president with 50 people that you wouldn't be able to learn, if you weren't in that role. So I'm just saying that to really say, just put yourself out there, get involved, take on leadership roles, especially with when you have the opportunity to do so in college, because it goes a long way when you graduate.
I'd like Oh, go ahead, Nicole, sorry.
Okay. So like from my experiences, they really helped me learn how to time manage and really adapt, which is something I really needed to use when transitioning from an academic environment to a professional environment. Just being able to adapt to my coworkers, adapt to work, and just being able to use those soft skills of communication and time management just to be able to make myself more successful in my tasks.
I think we were both on mute. So the only thing I wanted to add was Georgia State really taught me how to fight for myself. I was pretty shy. Keisha's on the line, she can tell you. Through school, confident in what I knew, but didn't always communicate that and how I presented myself. So I'll say that Georgia State really taught me, like, put yourself in the rooms that you want to be in, right? Like, make yourself present, and also make your presence felt while you're there, right? Leave a good, just a good taste in people's mouth of who Dana is, who Leander is, who Nicole is. Like, leave that there, because you never know how that will turn out down the line. But also just, I think our school is a school of hustlers, and I always say that, and that I think our brand as Robinson is still growing in terms of national recognition. And so something that I think is awesome is that I think we're paving the way for future Georgia State graduates. And I've seen it pay off in terms of a Georgia State graduate before me was in my company, and that leaves, you know, a good impression. I did well. That leaves, you know, a better impression of the school as well. And now the company is more open to hire more Georgia State graduates. So I think, you know, the best thing about our school is we know how to fight for ourselves.
Absolutely. We are the grittiest people in the region, I would say, if not the entire country. And it's true, we have to fight for ourselves. And I think given that we are so gritty and we're so driven, our alumni network is very strong because everyone's gone through the same hurdles and it makes it easier for us to connect with them. So my question is more around mentorship. You know, have you had great mentors during your time at GSU, and have they stuck with you all these years and still help you to this day?
Most definitely. And honestly, man, I think of a mentor as like a support system too. So like, I learned a lot from just the CAC alone. Like, you know, we're always up there, Kazi. So just being up there around those great people, just having people that believe in you and trust in you and always looking out for you, that's mentorship in itself. They might not have been, you know, in my field of work, right? But honestly, the support goes much farther than education sometimes, you know. Just having somebody that can vouch on your behalf, that's going to push you to reach limits, reach higher limits than you would even imagine. And that gives you, you know, a confidence booster. I think that goes a long way. And I think GSU is most definitely known for that, especially the CAC. Shout out to the CAC.
So I have to agree with that. Definitely Keisha and everyone at the CAC was a great help when I started my career path, right? From a technical point of view, like my first programming professor, I still keep up in touch with him, right? And I think that sometimes we want to think of mentors as people who are going to make us feel good. And I would say that the best mentors that I've had have made me feel uncomfortable first, right? I think that you don't grow if you're not uncomfortable, and they have pushed me to be better.
I've had both. I had both informal and formal mentors at Georgia State. Dr. Mansfield, head of the Women Lead program, has been like a great, I'd say, advocate for me. And then I did have a formal mentorship through the honors program, the honors business program. And she calls herself my Jewish mom, so clearly we're still in touch. But I think mentorship is very important. And I think something else to keep note of is that while we're being mentored, you know, there are people that we could serve as mentors to. So, you know, as a result of having great mentors in my life, I've really taken that challenge of like who, you know, is trying to be where I am, and how can I help them on their path.
And I think, mentorship is crucial. My time at GC, I've had informal and formal mentors. In the past few weeks, I've been making some decisions regarding my career path, and I've called maybe 10, 12 different people, had calls with them to figure out what to do. And I think finding the mentor, the first step is networking. And for many, networking might seem very intimidating. Do you have any advice on how you can make that networking process easier, or what networking even means to you?
I can go all day about networking. I'm trying to make it short. Man, you got to start by being genuine, being kind. I think a lot of people they forget that professionals are humans before they're professionals, and it takes kindness to really touch someone's heart. People always remember how you made them feel, and I think when people mess up with networking, they network when they need something. I network just to build relationships naturally because when I do need something, when it does come up, they're already there, right? I can leverage that network. Like, hey, Cons, I need, I might need a referral at EY. You're like, oh yeah, let's go. I got you, right? Because we already have that relationship. I've already built that over the course of 3-4 years at Georgia State, to where we know each other. You like, know, and trust me to the point where you can vouch on my behalf. And the same goes for you. And I think networking also comes with being, it's a mutually beneficial relationship as well. So with me, if I feel like they're pouring so much into me, I'm automatically like, hey, can I do anything for you? Like, how can I help you? Right? Because I want to make sure they're giving as much value as they're giving me, I'm giving right back into them. And I think also with the mentor and mentee relationship, just because you're a mentee does not mean you cannot bring value to your mentor. They can learn just as much from you as you learn from them. So always know that you can add value to someone's life in any aspect.
So networking for me was a bit difficult before I came to the CAC and made all these friends and had to go through interviews and all these uncomfortable situations. But I think Leander he took the words out of my mouth by saying, we're all human, right? Like, I've had to demo to the CTO of NCR, to senior vice presidents, and they're just humans. Like, if you let that sink into your mind, the nervousness goes away. And I think networking is really about taking the extra step, even internally to your work, right? Like, networking with someone who is in a role or a position that's lower to you is just as important as networking with someone who's above you, because you never know where that person is going to go. And it's paid off in my career path. I've had people fight for me when I didn't even know I needed to be fought for, right? So just keep that in mind. Don't just network because you need something.
Yes, definitely don't network when you just need something. I think that becomes very transactional in that sense. And as Leander mentioned, and as Angela mentioned, it's all about humans. And the human connection is so important, especially in this day and age, given that we're all virtual, we're all stuck in our homes. It's very hard to build that connection. So my question now is, how has this entire pandemic impacted your work stream or even just your life in general? And have you thought about different career strategies given the current climate, or maybe getting more professional development, education, etc.?
I can start. Oh, so I mean, I think the pandemic has most definitely opened my eyes to. I think everybody should have a side hustle, whether it's freelancing, business, real estate. Because as you can see, there's no such thing as job security. COVID happened. I think like over 40 million people were unemployed. That's crazy, and that was the only stream of income, right? So now people are struggling to make ends meet. And everybody has a skill or a trade, or if you don't, start to, find a way to master one. YouTube University. Promise you, you can find everything on YouTube. Get a course, get a certification. Like, they have free courses right now from Harvard. Everything's going up because of Corona. There's a lot of free resources people can use and take advantage of right now. So I think everyone should most definitely think about how they can monetize, but outside of work. Just because it's just so unclear, as you can see. Like, a lot of people are really, really struggling. I can tell you just by having a business that helps people get back on their feet, and the things I hear every day. So most definitely, I believe everybody should be an owner of something, and have a skill or trade they can monetize off of. Freelancing is a gig. You can make a lot of money off of freelancing. But make sure you build your relationships, make sure you're professional, and take care of your clients. Because at the end of the day, you do good business, you'll stay in business. So that's my advice.
My advice
So,
is
go ahead.
Angela. Okay. My advice is a little different, but I do agree with everything you just said, Leander. As working for like a, fast moving company, at Netflix in normal times, sometimes the pace can be grueling. And so something that became very important for me was to carve out time for myself and not feel like I was, any lesser for saying I need to carve out an hour in the day. That's my time. Knowing that, just with the nature of working from home right now, work bleeds into the time that would have been yours, right? If we were in a normal setting. So I think it's been increasingly important for me to be better about creating boundaries. And as a kind-hearted person, it's easier to say yes than no, but to get comfortable with saying no, and setting up those boundaries. And additionally, like if we're those of us that are fortunate to, have stable jobs right now, we're working hard, right? Busting our butts for these companies when it's in their interest. And so something that's been important for me is to just really make sure that I'm getting full value out of my experience at my company, because I'm giving a lot. So I need to make sure that I'm also getting the experiences that would give me the most joy in doing this work.
So my experience is very similar to you. I worked for an online ordering product for restaurants. So when the pandemic hit and restaurants were closed, our product had unknown volumes, like it was crazy. And we were working 14, 16-hour days, 7 days a week, trying to get our product stable. And through this, I've had to learn to say no. I've had to learn that maybe I need to wake up a little bit earlier so I can have my coffee and enjoy a book or do yoga or whatever it may be, because everything just really seems to blend together. And I would work more working from home than working in the office. So I would just say two things that come to mind when dealing with pandemic is a better work-life balance and also the stability of a company. I've seen friends who have gone to different companies and were unfortunately furloughed through the pandemic. And it makes me very grateful to be in a company that is more stable, right? So it's something to keep in mind when you're looking at your career and what you want to do.
Absolutely, gratitude is one of the biggest lessons I've learned during this entire process. And the world we're going to go back to, or the new world we're going to go to, will look very different than what it was before. So what can students who are currently in school do to ensure that they are a step ahead when they enter the workforce once this whole thing blows over?
I think you should most definitely be on LinkedIn right now, like going crazy, to be honest. LinkedIn is most definitely a lucrative platform. You can find anybody and everybody on there. Build your professional brand. I believe everybody has their own brand. Embrace it, be vulnerable, put things out there, post your resume. We'll get your resume there and that's part of your resume. but no, for real, I think you should most definitely prepare to really get to know people. But just like, I can't stress enough, put yourself out there. That's like, people aren't going to find you. I think that's misconstrued. Like, oh, somebody's going to find me to get a job. Like, there's too many people out here, just in sales alone, like you have to touch clients 8 times before they purchase. There's just too many, services out there, so like the relationships are key. So I think most definitely take this time to build relationships with people you want to know, at companies you want to be a part of. This is the time to do it. People they got more time. They're at the house. Everybody's virtual. We're on the same level playing field. So, and everybody's on right now. So most definitely take advantage of that.
I agree with that. I'd say use the time for sure to figure out what you want, right? That's something that takes time, and you may, that may change over time. But now is the time to really sit with yourself and say like, okay, the track that I'm on, is that going to get me to my initial goal, right? Or am I doing the right classes to get me there? If that is a harder route for you, am I making the correct relationships to ensure that I have a fair shot of getting what my dream first job is, or the experiences that you want? I think just really using this time to make sure that you're making good progress to where you want to be in a year, and then backtracking from there to say, who do I need to talk to? You know, Georgia State has a lot of resources. Am I still leveraging them properly, you know, in this virtual time? And just really use it as a self-check moment. I am doing that myself right now to make sure that I'm not getting lazy in terms of what my aspirations are.
I would say that from a corporation's point of view, a lot of corporations are going to continue work from home for a little bit longer, or they might have less contact between employees because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. So especially for those graduating in the fall or May of next year, I would start thinking about how you're going to transition into a professional world and empower yourself, right? Because you're not going to have, there's a possibility that you might not have as many opportunities to reach out for help. And if that becomes the case, what's your plan? How are you going to reach out? How are you going to network? How are you going to ask questions? I think that's very important.
Yeah, as you just said, it's going to be very different. Opportunities might be scarce in the future, and you know, this is more around just advice. Maybe you might not have gone through this, but would it be a good idea for students to look at higher education and kind of wait this out while they get a master's degree or get a higher level PhD or something like that? Or have any of you considered going back to school to expand on your academic knowledge as well as your leadership and professional knowledge?
So I have considered going for my master's at Georgia Tech, but I again am a more technical position, and I've gotten advice from a bunch of different people who have gotten their masters, who haven't gotten their masters, and why. I don't feel that getting my master's would be beneficial, really, or would give me the benefit outweigh the benefits, right? But I think that it is something that other industries should consider for sure. If you're not going to go straight into the workforce, getting your master's is going to enable you to continue growth.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm considering going to get my MBA. Most definitely in entrepreneurship, but at the same time, I think an MBA is good for me specifically for the network. I do realize that because, like I said, just being in the entrepreneurship role right now, and I can learn anything I need to learn online. So I think most definitely the biggest thing for me is like, what network, who am I going to be around? Who's going to be pouring into me? That's really the investment for me when I'm choosing to go get a higher education. Most definitely to learn as well, but like I said, I can learn pretty much anything online. So I think putting myself in the MBA program would most definitely be because of the network and the establishment of that school or university.
Yeah, similarly for me, I've gotten a lot of feedback and advice over my first 4 years of working of being really clear about your why, and especially if the graduate degree you'd pursue is an MBA, it has to be crystal clear why this would, be additive to you and your aspirations. So I do think more school is always great. I do think you need to really understand your intentions for it, and it not just being a backup plan because of, the state of the world currently. I think something else important is like something I've learned and while working is, thinking of the trade-off. So using me as an example, like working in media right now is a great spot to be in because so much technology is rapidly changing what media looks like. And I have to weigh right now, is the value of me returning to school for an MBA outweighing the on-the-ground experience that I'm getting now? If I want to return to this industry, what am I losing in terms of learnings by jumping to school now? So I think just weighing the pros and cons of what your overall gains would be. And like Leander, for me personally, I think that the best value of an MBA would be the cohort experience, and learning from peers and expanding my network to be more global, and not just inside of my industry.
Yeah, finding your why is very, very important, not just for MBA, but just in general for your whole career path. And if you have heard of Simon Sinek, read his book, Start With Why. Great, great book, and it'll help you figure out what your why is. But I want to change speed and kind of ask you all, for those looking to start their internships or their first full-time jobs, what can they do to stand out right off the bat?
I know for me, for example, when I was at my internships, I think being active, just asking a lot of questions, getting to know how the business runs, how the business makes money, very, very important. Know the structure of the business, be able to help out whenever you can, take on extra projects. Be only there for 10 weeks, you might as well get to know everything about the business while you're there. And then with full time, what I have been doing thus far is talking to people that's already in the financial analyst role at Adobe. So I'm getting to know, like, okay, what's the hours going to be like? What's the work I need to learn? What resources can I look at now? What tools can I get acclimated with? So just getting my feet wet early on, so I know what I'm coming into, just not coming in blind, right? But they did also tell me, full-time people, take your time, bro. It's gonna take 6 months to get acclimated. So I'm coming in thinking I'm about to, go straight in it, hot and heavy, start making impact. But nah, they was like, yo, just take your time, relax, enjoy the onboarding process. It's a lot to take in, a lot to learn. So I think just be patient with the full time, but with internships, most definitely you're gonna make a good impression because you do want that full time offer when you do leave. That's the whole goal, right? So just be active, and ask questions.
So I definitely agree with being active. And I also think you should just utilize you have available. So being able to use LinkedIn to connect with either previous interns, incoming and current interns, or even figuring out who is an alumni from your school, so that once you get into the internship or the role, you know exactly who you want to connect with and who you can try to get to mentor you, and just being able to use that along with being able to research more about your team. So when you get there, you can find ways connect with them, to make your experience move a little faster with getting to know everybody. So yeah.
I would say, for those who have never had this is their first job out of college or first internship out of college, definitely take the time to be observant of the professional culture inside of a company. I've seen this in interns that have come in that they're very stuck on how they act with their friends or how they act in their college life versus their professional world. So be observant of how you act and respond to certain scenarios in the professional world, but also be willing, right? I think fear sometimes gets the best of most of us, right? And be willing to take on a project, be willing to put in some extra hours, be curious, ask those why questions, just make sure that you're asking them appropriately.
To add to that, I think I thought of the question a little differently. Something that I think is important to even bring you into the opportunity. So before you secure the internship or the job, I think is to give people a glimpse into who you are, from early stages of the interview process. So from your first, application, I know right now, if you're trying to secure a job, you might be applying at mass, but making sure that each and every single application is personalized and make every application feel like that's the one job you want, right? That's your one big bet for yourself. I think it really shines through when somebody's reading your application and they can see already sparks of the value that you'd bring, the impact that you would have, and can see a genuine curiosity for you to be in that specific role. And additionally, just do your research. I think from having interviewed people before, there is nothing worse, I think, than not being prepared, right? So not having awareness of, big things that may have happened in the company recently. It's not like the little random details that, might have been hard to find. It's the big concerns of the company and their big objectives. It's important that you demonstrate interest in that way as well by just knowing, what are the current priorities of a company.
Just to add to that real quick, I would say that in interviewing people, my biggest pet peeve is if I ask you, do you have any questions? And you don't have a single question, because I know that you have questions. Everyone has questions when you go for an interview, right? So I'd rather get maybe not a well thought out question, but something to tell me that you're thinking about what's going on or what this opportunity is or what you want, right? Even if it's a personal question to me as an interviewer, ask me how I did, right? Or how I got here or any advice that I could give you. So definitely be aware of that. I think that's also a great place to put something in for a company detail or company questions.
I agree with that, Angela. And also, I think people forget that you can ask about the culture. An interview is an opportunity for you to learn about the company as well, and for you to get better insight on if that's something that you'd even want to pursue. It's not just the company grilling you, trying to see if you're a fit. You're trying to figure out too if the company is a fit for you as well.
Absolutely. I think we forget how important questions can be. Sometimes you might have a terrible interview, not have the great answers, but good questions might help you stand out. So maybe share, what are some good questions that you've asked in the past, or some types of questions that students could ask in their interviews?
I always ask about culture. I say, I asked them if you had to describe the culture in maybe 3 words, or what would they be and why? And then I also ask why are you in this role, and how does this align with your long-term goals? They get stuck on that one. I didn't they don't even know. So they're like, oh man. And then if you come up with some research, what I'm saying, I see, Adobe just came out with this. How does this affect, the finance team or something like that? Now you're doing your research, you're coming in with hardcore facts. You're like, okay, I like this guy, or this woman. So I think it works, man. I think when you get people thinking about their own company, it takes away from what they even asked you in an interview. When I walk into interviews, I'm setting the tone. So I try to ask them questions before they can ask me. They forget about the whole interview. We having a conversation. So that's what happened at Adobe. We were just really chopping it up, to be honest, about whatever. And he was like, yeah, he was a Forbes conference. Tell me a little bit about that. I'm like, cool. You have no finance questions, sir? But hey, I was cool with it, but I think you should own the room. If you own the room, you'll be good.
I could not agree more with that. Actually, coming in, my manager always told me, we hire people that we think are smarter than us. And I think that's a very interesting point, because I think that sometimes as an interviewee, you don't want to kind of overshadow whoever is interviewing you, or you will be challenged on interviews. And it's okay to stand up for yourself and say, no, this is how I think it works and why, or this is why I feel this way and why. So that's a very interesting point. And also, one of the people that came in with my cohort, when we first started, he's on a different team, but he had a one-on-one with his manager, and he asked him for advice. And then he asked, who should I talk to next? And I think that's a very interesting way to go about networking. And I think it'll provide a lot of experience to answer your why, right?
I agree with that. I have a question that actually came from my work professional mentor that she pushed me to ask and it was scary asking the first time, but it's a super impactful question, is what is the one thing that you're hoping that the person you hire can change. So what is the impact that you're expecting over the first 3 months? If I do this, what would be life-changing for this group? And when you position it in that way, it really communicates that you're already seeing yourself in the role. You're already seeing yourself as somebody that, you know, will be a good team player and is really concerned about what you need to do to move the business forward. So asking a question like that already demonstrates that you see yourself in that job and you want to do what is needed to improve, you know, the state of the team. And then something else, I always ask about culture. I always ask, you know, especially Netflix is a good example of, they have a culture memo. Other companies may have culture documents or values that they aspire to live by. The ones that concern me the most, so the ones that give me pause, are the ones I always ask about. So at Netflix, for example, we have a culture of feedback. That sounds nice, but what does that look like? Easy question. You know, what does, you know, on a day-to-day, what does it look like to get feedback, you know, in the work that you're doing? And then that set it up for them to be able to address some of my concerns.
I also asked one more question. I think I asked it at Adobe. I was like trying to figure out the pain points of entry-level candidates to figure out what I can do better to be the best financial analyst at Adobe, right? And they resonated with that. I was like, oh, yeah, this guy's about to come in with some heat, right? So I asked him, you know, like, what are some things that you see financial analysts can do better as an entry-level candidate? Or what are some things, or like, what tasks do you give them? He was like, yeah, I hate when, he didn't say hate, but he was like, I want you to really like try to do the work first before you come to me and ask me for help, you know? So I was like, okay, great, noted. Because like, you never know, these people could be your manager. So and then I also asked, like, how do you, like, as a manager, as a finance manager, like, how do you get your team excited about doing the work with you? So I'm trying to get like their personality as a manager, like how do they lead their team? What gets them going every day? So I think just getting to know the people that you're interviewing, and asking those like kind of personal but business oriented questions will set you apart for sure.
I definitely agree. And I think when you decide what questions you ask, they need to be questions that mean something to you. To ask questions about professional development and those type of opportunities, or how do they try to push employees to get outside of their comfort zone, or how is it structured so that you're put in a position to where you can continue to move forward in your career. So just learning more about long-term and how the company can help you reach your long-term goals.
So if you all were in a position to hire someone, what are the key characteristics you'd be looking for?
I'm hiring right now. We got resume consultants, applications up on sparkyourresume.com, and hiring sales interns and sales reps for my business right now. So what I'm looking for, honestly, man, is somebody that's willing to learn, that's excited about helping people advance their career. So like, well, that's specifically for my business. But if I was just hiring like regular, somebody that's willing to learn, you know, that can adapt. And I think most definitely passionate about what we're producing. And most definitely, you know, can integrate into the culture I've already built, right? So I'm always thinking about, okay, the team I already built that sparked your resume, Kazi applied. I see Kazi fitting in with the team I already built, right? And I think that goes a long way with interviewing in general, because you know, every company has their own like type of people they like, diverse, inclusion, whatever the case may be, that they're looking for people that can integrate well with that team already. They don't want to bring in a dead weight or somebody that's gonna knock it off balance, right? Then it messes everything up. So most definitely, I think just showcasing that personality, showcasing your personality, eager to learn, most definitely enthusiastic about the company or a job that you're applying for, will go, you'll be good. That's what I'm looking for.
Three things that I look for is one, like, I think it's important to all of us to have people that are curious. So demonstrate like the desire to get better, or to just learn more. Humility, I think, is really important, that people are, you know, it's like humble confidence, something that's really hard for me to enjoy to work with is people that come off as cocky or arrogant. And I think humility goes a long way in just being a good teammate, but also like knowing that we all have room to grow is important. And then lastly, I think just like I look for people that have different skills than me. So, I don't think it's necessarily great if all the team is the same in terms of just demographic makeup or in terms of skill set. I think the team needs to be diverse, and it's most helpful when we all have different viewpoints. The team can accomplish more.
So I'm also in agreement with both of them. I think from a technical perspective, I definitely look for someone who has an opinion and who can explain themselves well, right? I think whenever I've gone through interviews, it's important to think out loud. It's not a bad thing to say, I don't know. I'd rather someone who says, I don't know, than someone who's like, no, I'm 100% sure and you're wrong. But I think that humble confidence is the best way to describe it. I want someone who brings perspective. I want someone who can give an opinion, can give it well without it being an offensive opinion. And I want, at the end of the day, what I ask myself is, do I want to work with this person? If this person was on my team, do I want to work with them?
So in Norfolk Southern, we really try to look for candidates that culture add and not a culture fit. We want someone who's going to stand out and make change and not just blend in. We also like individuals who know what they want to do and aren't just looking for a job to get paid. So when you can express why you'd be a good fit, why you want this, and what you can bring to the table, that's really something we look for, because certain things can be taught, but drive and determination can't.
So I think all GSC students have that drive, that determination, and we have, humble confidence because we're always overcoming hurdles and trying to, achieve higher and higher. I'm going to kind of switch it up and ask, do you have any funny recruiting stories or funny networking stories that you want to share with us?
So I think my experience at NCR is a bit funny. It was my first technical interview, and I thought I completely bombed it. I left the interview, and I called my friend, and I was crying. And for the rest of the weekend, we were all like, yeah, forget NCR. Like, you'll do better next time. They were all trying to make me feel better about my interview. And I am notorious about listening to voicemails. So I actually went to an event with some friends, a recruitment event for Accenture, and they told me that they had gotten some calls from EY, and I had interviewed for EY, and they were like, yeah, we got a voicemail. And I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. I don't know why I hadn't thought about it, but I hadn't thought about it at all. And I checked my voicemail looking for a voicemail from EY, and I have a voicemail from NCR. So I just want to say that in your recruitment process, you're going to doubt yourself, but learn from it. Don't overthink a lot of things. It's going to take work and effort and a lot of tries, and it's okay. It's okay for you to not get a response back. It's okay for you to get 15 offers and not know what to do. I think a lot of us experience that also.
So if you don't want to share, I know we all have hilarious stories. There's no problem there.
I'm trying to think.
It can be networking as well. It doesn't have to be recruiting per se.
Like, I probably had a lot of funny names. I met a lot of different people, like.
Actually, I thought of one really quickly. So I was part of the Women Lead program, and during Women Lead, you get matched with kind of a mentor for an informational interview, and you reach out to them and you go and meet with them for coffee. And I was with someone named Devin Barnwell, right? This executive director at Morgan Stanley Real Estate. I thought, because being one of the very few men in the program, I was probably matched with another, mentor. But so I emailed this person, Mr. Barnwell, XY, blah, blah, blah. I look forward to meeting you. she responds with, "Oh, it's not Mr. Barnwell, it's Mrs. Barnwell," and but it was all fine later on. I met with her, and she's like, "No, it's fine. It happens. You know, it's a very common thing." But it was funny, but it was also very eye-opening as well that we have these implicit biases that we function off of. You know, I had Googled and tried to figure out who this person is, and the only results that I found were, you know, men who were in the industry. So yeah, do your research. Very important. Whenever we're running out of time, any question from the attendees? We have the chat open, but given it's a very intimate crowd, feel free to go off of mute and just ask away. Who knows, one of these fine panelists might be hiring you in the very near future.
Yes, sir. Put you on at Adobe. Where the chat at?
I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't really have any internship experience just because of, you know, some things that were going on, but the only experience that I really have like professionally is retail. And I feel like when I apply to jobs, a lot of companies, like that's the only thing they see. They don't really, you know, take the time or the chance, you know, to get to know what I'm capable of. How do you think I can, I guess, advertise myself better towards hiring companies?
So we'll definitely connect with me later, but we can we can talk. But most definitely the resume is first. So like in your resume, you want to list like your action first, and then your task or project, but also your result or outcome and a metric. And you got to think about transferable skills. So you want to make sure your resume is highlighting your impact and your value proposition. People try to wait until they get into the interview to kind of showcase their value, but you're not going to get the interview without the resume. So you got to start there first. That's your foundation. And are you an entry level candidate or did you graduate yet?
I'm about to graduate this summer. So yeah, I'm looking for entry level stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. Yeah, connect with me. I'll connect with you right now.
Okay.
So just to add to that, and Lakeisha knows this, I came into her office because a friend pulled me in, and I was super nervous, super scared. I had no internship experience because I worked throughout my whole college career, and I just didn't have time for things. I think that the best thing that you could do for yourself is own it. Whatever experience those jobs have given you, what perspective do you bring to a team, and how can that make you more valuable, right? There are things that I never thought I would ever look at again, and I still use it on a day-to-day basis. So own it and make sure that when you're writing out your resume, you're thinking about those experiences and highlighting them in the first few bullet points.
Thank you for that. I'm definitely writing this stuff down.
And then we're almost out of time. Any more questions? If not, Muriel, anything you want to go over before we close out?
Of the panel, so I have nothing.
Well, in that case, thank you everyone for your time, especially the panelists and for all the attendees. You know, we hope everyone has a great weekend, being stuck at home, you know, the new normal.
Right.
Get some time, get some fresh air, get some sunlight, and I wish everyone a good weekend. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See y'all later.